Okay, so now that you guys have done a really good job adding integers or positive and negative numbers, you are going to try subtracting them. When you subtract integers, you actually add its opposite. So if you look at the beginning part of your notes right here, I want you to put in the word add, because when you subtract, you add its opposite. So you can go ahead and look at this visual right here after you've written in this word, because to subtract an integer, you add its opposite. So let's look right here at our example. We have 3 minus 4. Well, to subtract an integer, you add its opposite. So 3 minus 4, so they've changed this to, you have 3 plus negative 4. The opposite of 4 is negative 4, and to subtract an integer, you have to add its opposite. So if you look right here, we start with 3, and then you add negative 4, and you end up at negative 1. Okay? So you can see, looking at these two visuals, why 3 minus 4 equals negative 1 and 3 plus negative 4 equals negative 1. But if you simply to subtract, you add an opposite, it's going to be a lot simpler. So what I say to remember that is I just say SAO. So I have SAO. So just say it SAO, SAO. So when I see the word subtract, I think SAO, which means subtract. So subtract, add, opposite. So SAO, subtract, add, opposite. So you could say that to yourself to kind of help you remember. Let's look at a couple more examples. Okay, so our problem right here, you can see, is 3 minus 12. Remember, SAO, subtract, to subtract, you add opposite. So they've changed this. You can look 3 plus negative 12, because negative 12 is the opposite of 12. And now we just simply follow our rules of adding and adding integers, and we know when we add integers, whatever, if they're different signs, which you can see this is a positive 3, this is a negative 12, since they're different signs, we go with whatever sign has the bigger absolute value. So because negative 12 has a bigger absolute value, your answer is going to be negative. And then 12 minus 3 is 9. So negative 9. All right, let's look at this next one. Remember, SAO, subtract, add opposites. We have negative 8 minus negative 13. So we have to add its opposite. So the opposite of negative 13 is 13. And then we add SAO, subtract, add, opposite. Negative 8 plus 13, different signs. So the sign with the greatest absolute value, it is that sign. So you can see 13 has a larger absolute value. So the answer is 5, positive 5, because the 13 is positive. Let's try and look at one more example. So we're going to find 5 minus negative 4. All right, SAO, subtract, add, opposite. So you can see here I have a negative 4, so that converts to a positive 4 because that's the opposite. I'm subtracting, but SAO, to subtract, I add the opposite. So you can see right here, I have the plus sign. So the opposite of negative 4 is 4. We change our subtraction symbol to an addition. 5 plus 4 is 9. We know it's positive because both of these numbers are positive. And if they have the same sign, the sign stays the same. Okay, on your notes you will see that you have this wording right here too. And these are just little kind of cheats to help you remember what to do. Okay, so if you get to a problem, you're like, oh, what do I do when I subtract? You can always look and find the quick rules right here, or if I'm adding with the same sign or adding with different signs. So refer back to this language if you forget what you're supposed to do for the different type of problems. All right, now we're going to try 4 different type of problems. We're going to try adding integers with same sign, adding with different signs, and then subtracting with the same sign and subtracting with different signs. So here's my first problem, 8 plus 6. It's adding. So I leave it as a plus sign or an adding problem. And these are both positive numbers, so I know my answer is positive. So simply 8 plus 6 equals 14. Okay? I want you to pause the video and try this problem right here. Okay? When you're done, unpause the video to see the answer. Okay, your answer is negative 18. You're adding, so you continue to add. Don't have to change that, you're adding. And you can see both of these numbers are negative, so my answer is going to be negative. 8 plus 10, 18. They're both negative, so it's negative 18. Okay, adding integers with different signs. These are addition problems, so I don't have to change that. It stays addition. If it starts addition, it stays addition. So now I look and I have 10 plus negative 3. So I have 10 and negative 3. They have different signs, so I have to subtract. So it's kind of confusing when you adding integers with different signs, you end up subtracting. But if you're subtracting integers, you end up adding the opposite. Okay, so because 10 has a larger absolute value and it's positive, I know my answer will be positive. 10 plus negative 3, so I subtract the absolute value, so 10 minus 3 is 7, and my answer remains positive because 10 has the larger absolute value. Okay, go ahead and try the next one on your own. That would be this problem right here. Okay, the answer to this problem is 1. So they have different signs, so we have to subtract the absolute value. So we have 8 minus 7, which equals 1, and the answer remains positive because 8 has a larger absolute value than negative 7. All right, hang in there. You're almost done. If you need a break, remember to take a break. Your notes should look like this, okay? Make sure that you're writing the stuff in the boxes and not just on your whiteboard. Okay, so take a break if you need it. We only have 2 more problems left, and then you can start working on your homework. Okay, so now we are on subtraction problems. So subtracting integers with the same sign. Remember, when we subtract, we SAO. Subtract means add opposite. So if I go ahead and let's start with this problem, I have negative 5 minus negative 6. So in order to subtract, I have to add the opposite. And there's a little trick language you can use to help yourself remember, and it's called click, clack. So subtract means add its opposite, SAO. So negative, we have negative 5 minus negative 6. We have to subtract, we have to add its opposite. So click, clack. I've changed the 2 terms. You can look right here. You have to add its opposite. So I change this to an addition problem, and I change this to the opposite sign. Click, clack. All right, so negative 5 plus 6 equals, they have different signs, so I have to give it the one with the larger absolute value, which would be my positive 6. 6 minus 5 is negative 1. Okay, go ahead and try the next one. Okay, I'm looking at my problem. I have 8 minus 3. To subtract, I have to add its opposite, so click, clack. So this now becomes 8 plus negative 3. No, 8 plus negative 3, they have different signs, so I subtract the absolute values. 8 minus 3 is 5, and the answer remains positive because 8 has that larger absolute value. Okay, here we go. Last set of problems. We have some more subtractions, so we have to remember SAO, subtract, add, opposite. Subtract, add, opposite. So we have 5 minus negative 2. So in order to subtract, I add the opposite. So I can see I have 5 minus negative 2. And so I'm going to click, clack, click, clack. I've turned them both into the opposite because I have to add the opposite. And now I'm simply left with 5 plus 2. And we know that 5 plus 2 is 7. The answer remains positive because they are both positive. All right, try the last one. Okay, so in order to subtract, I have to add the opposite. So I started with 8 minus 4, and I click, clack, so click, clack, so it would be the opposite. So negative 8 minus 4 becomes negative 8 plus negative 4, because this negative 4 is the opposite of positive 4. Now I'm looking and I'm adding two integers with the same sign. So because they both have the same sign, I know the answer will have that sign as well. So this is a negative and this is a negative, so my answer is a negative. 8 plus 4 is 12, so my answer is negative 12. All right. Good job, you guys. We'll see you tomorrow.